You know, it's a funny thing when you hang around older people, which I am old. They tend to tell certain stories over and over and over. And even when you try to stop them and say, look, you've told me this story many times before, they'll just look at you funny and continue with the story. All right. Now, there's one other level of this. Now, my father, I didn't notice this when I was younger, but when we go in the car to go somewhere, he'd be like a tour guide, and he'd go by each place, and he'd tell you about it a little bit. He had like a sentence, the same sentence about the place every time he went by, just like a tour guide. To your left, you'll see a junkyard. That junkyard's been there for many years. When it floods, you'll see all those cars underwater. And when you're younger and he'd say that, you just look out the window and you stare at the thing. And as you get older, you're like, yeah, we're at the junkyard again. It's like, and if you try to stop him, or you would tell him he told you that before, he couldn't remember. My father had a really bad memory, and I still have a pretty good memory. I won't say it was as great as it used to be, but I told you once before, other people would hold stuff up to me and say, where did I get this? My father would do that to me. My mother would do that to me. My sister, neighbors and stuff. Do you remember where I got this? Yeah, and I did, because they had told me the story. Well, one of the things my father would do, we would come back. I'm going to tell you the road. You can actually see where the place was. Route 46 in Pine Brook. I believe the town is Pine Brook. By Bloomfield Avenue. There was this big field there, and in the middle of the field was a racetrack. I don't know if it was a quarter mile around or 3/4 miles around or a mile around, but it was for miniature race cars. They called them midget race cars. Nowadays, the word midget probably is derogatory or whatever word you want to use, but there were midget racers. So every time we'd come around that bend, my father would go into his, over there is the Pine Brook Auto Raceway or whatever the name was. Every weekend they raced midget races there. You couldn't stop it every time. It's like somebody pushed a button on a Chatty Cathy or whatever, or pulled the string. And, years of this, all these different places. So I had a guy I worked with in the Radio Shack, and we shot up to a different store. And on the way back, we get to that Pine Brook auction. Not the auction. The auction's actually a little further up. That's another thing. There's where the old Pine Brook auction used to be. What does that do? It's an open field. It burnt down like 5 years ago. So we're coming up on the Pine Brook Auto Raceway, whatever. And the guy I'm with just goes into it like they pushed his button. Over there, you got the Pine Brook Raceway. And I just start laughing. And he's like, what are you laughing about? I said, every time I come by this thing with my father, he says the same thing you're saying. He says, well, his father used to say the same thing. I said, did you ever go there? No. I said, did they ever promise to take you there? Yeah. I said, so I said, you know what? We had seen a sign too. I said, let's go there this weekend. Okay? So we go there, and he brings a kid that is a Chatty Cathy doll. He only says certain stupid things with a stupid retarded talk that he used to have. But anyway, so the three of us go there, and it was more expensive than we expected. It was like $18.50 to get in. You had to park on this really big lawn, and once you get in there, you're not going to get out until it's over. So we get up to the booth, and they want a certain amount of money. And so I subsidized the two of them. I subsidized their food, and I'm sitting there. Now, they lay the race cars out on the track, and they almost go totally around. Maybe a quarter-mile track, eighth-mile track, I don't know, but it's so stupid. As soon as the race starts, you can't tell who's in front. So there must be lap counters that count the laps, and it must go by time. We had no clue what we were looking at. So after about the third race, they have a couple accidents there, and they stop the race, and they do a restart and a thing. But the people in the crowd were like the family of the person racing. And one of them sort of explained some of the stuff to us, but you had to be either in the race with your car, or a mechanic for the car, or your father or brother was racing in the race to have any other interest in this thing. And it was like they would race in different places in the country, okay? and it might have been a club. I only heard some of the information, but I did end up going there. So now I'm in the car with my father, and we go by there, and he starts telling me about it. I said, I went there. I told you I went there. You went there? Yeah, I must have told you like 3 or 4 times already. Me and this other guy from Radio Shack, we went there one night. Remember I told you the story? No, absolutely not. And he continued every time we went by that to tell the thing, not remember that I actually went to the place. Okay, and that was very annoying. But I realized that I have some of my neighbors are starting to do that. They tell me a story that they told me a million frickin' times before. And you got to watch what you say or you trigger one of these stories. That's why I sort of enjoy, like I just got back from a walk. I enjoy walking and bumping into someone I don't know because everything that person tells you is new. Okay? And when you see your regular neighbors, they'll go, did you know they're going to put that over there? I said, it's already there. When did they put that in? I'm like, holy Christmas. But anyway, I'm the guy in the neighborhood that'll tell them the store just opened up or a certain thing is going in. They're basically clueless here. Okay? And I'm like, oh, God. But another thing that I remember was my mother always wanted me to get new friends. And I was very loyal with the kids I grew up with. But basically, if you read all the different text files on the internet, it says at some point you're going to have to leave your friends and move forward in life. And I didn't do that. But eventually, my friends got rid of me, except if they wanted something. And then that's all in the text file. Watch out for those guys. They don't want anything to do with you until they need something. But I just wanted to tell you about, my father used to be like being on a tour bus, Pal's Cabin, Turtleback Zoo, and then when his brothers and sisters would come to visit, he'd be telling them all about all these places we had around as though he actually went there. And he drove by them, okay? And they're like, whoa, whoa. And the two aunts actually would come down to visit him. And all they do is sit there. You can see it on their face. They're very antsy about something. They want to go to the shopping mall. So my father would drive them up to the shopping mall. And that was the big thing for them. And I didn't realize that until I moved here. We have shopping malls here. But if you talk to people further out, just a few miles out, they don't have shopping malls. And it's really annoying that whenever you need something, you have to mail order it. Amazon's pretty quick, but there's nothing like, in my case, my aunts, they were nurses or whatever, nurses' aides, they would buy the uniforms in New Jersey because they were cheaper and they could see the quality. And then they would buy it and they'd come back all happy. That would make their trip. In other words, they come visit their brother, but my dad had to take them to the shopping mall. And they would come in. They'd come in with their car, and then they would sit there and they'd talk for a while. But you could see them, they're getting antsy. They want to go to the shopping mall. And they're looking at the clock. Like they get in there early in the morning, like 7. They want to get ready for 9 to the shopping mall. And he'd take them up to the shopping mall. And they'd be all giddy about, buying a couple different things at the shopping mall. And I really didn't realize it. Now it's like I understand that because the stuff, I have all these shopping malls near me. I think I have 4 shopping malls and a Walmart. And I had Target and I have all that stuff. And I'm getting we lost one hobby shop, AC Moore, and now we're getting a Hobby Lobby. So everybody's like, oh, you got to have a Hobby Lobby. Oh, and I have a Harbor Freight a block and a half from here. Okay? But I don't have an electronics store, which they don't basically exist anymore. But I thought I was going to tell you, I don't know if your parents did that to you when you're in the car. And they tell you about stuff and you never go there. It's just like, that's this, that, and they forget that they told you, and every time, it's just like I said, it's like being on a tour bus. But it was so funny. We go by that Pine Brook Raceway, and this kid repeats back the sentences his father said to him. And we started laughing. We were laughing for a couple of days until we went there, and then it sucked, okay, because you have to be into the hobby of midget car races to actually enjoy that place. Okay, and they did have a food stand, but like I said, when I got there, they brought like maybe $12 with them or $15, and it was a lot more than that. It was like $18.50 to get in, or some ridiculous price, and it might have included a hot dog and drink. I don't remember specifically, but all I remember is when me and that one kid would go by that Pine Brook auction. Raceway. And I keep saying Pine Brook Auction because that's the other thing up the street. My father would say, there's a Pine Brook Auction over there. And there's, let me think if I could think about was it Pine Brook Hobby? Pine Brook Hobby Shop? Or was it Steve's? So anyway, there was a hobby shop just up the road from this Raceway. There was the Pine Brook Auction. And then further up was this hobby shop that was inside a church. And might have been Rich's Hobby Shop? Rich's Hobby Town? Yeah, I think it's Rich's Hobby Town. Look it up. But it's in Pine Brook. And there's actually pictures on the internet of the place. But it was inside a church. And it was there most of my growing up when I got my car. And I'd go there. When you needed something for a hobby, you would have to drive all the way up to that place. And then we had one over in Rutherford, and then another like Carl's or whatever the guy's name. And they both closed basically at the same time. But yeah, it's pretty funny stuff. Over there, that's the Pine Brook Raceway. Every weekend they have midget car races there. Oh my God. Oh, and my grandmother. I gotta remind you what my grandma used to say. My grandmother used to call me son because she couldn't remember my name. She used to call the girls girly. Okay, this is why I'm so intelligent. These are my ancestors. And she would always say, you know, you can make a radio out of a Quaker Oats box. I think that's it. All right, that's it.